Hi everyone and welcome to Make It Happen TV. I'm sitting on a really weird, windy, swivelly chair today, so I'm a little bit uncomfortable like this. I don't know how to get comfortable, but I'm with a really special guest of mine, Omar Al Busaidy. He's here to join us today, and he is very, very different from all of these people that you might think you understand or have a stereotypical picture of what a typical Emirati businessman, entrepreneur and smart guy is. Omar, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Spencer.
It's really cool to have you here.
Thank
Okay,
you.
we've just been talking for the last few minutes. You're a real character.
Thank you. Likewise.
So tell me, for the benefit of the audience, okay, they want to know who you are, they want to know your story, okay, so just give a 1 minute background of who you are, where you're from, okay, a little bit about your story, and then I'll dig into that a bit deeper, and we'll try and find out some cracks in his armor and see if he shares some stuff with us.
Okay, cool. So I'm Omar Al Busaidy. I'm 31 years old. I'm from the United Arab Emirates. Studied marketing at the American University in Dubai, and I'm studying entrepreneurship and innovation at the Hamdan bin Mohammed Smart University at the moment. I work at the Abu Dhabi Tourism and Culture Authority as the head of aviation development, and I have a business. I have a men's salon or a barbershop called W Gents in Dubai, as well as we're the importers of a product called Fresh Feel from Spain. It's a shampoo, body wash, etc.
Okay.
And I'm also the author of a book called Just Read It. It's a book about entrepreneurship. It's a self-help personal development book on entrepreneurship. And I'm working on my second book, which is called What's Next. Will be hopefully published by the end of this year or beginning of 2018. And I'm also a global shaper with the World Economic Forum. So that's pretty cool.
A global shaper.
Yeah, I know. So all these problems in the world.
That's like a big thing, isn't it?
It's the World Economic Forum has a community. They have like young global leaders. I'm definitely sure you know some of them. There's also Global Shapers community, and the idea is the Global Shapers are people like-minded who are together and they work on social projects. So I talk about entrepreneurship and youth development and everything.
Okay.
Youth
It's
empowerment.
quite a lot of things that you do.
Yeah, it's a lot of things, but I'm active in some things and I'm inactive in others. As we go on, I'll tell you more about what I'm more focused on.
Okay, so let's talk about entrepreneurship to start.
Sure.
Where is it in your family history that there's an entrepreneur that's inspired you? Is there anybody in there that's made, as you grew up, made you feel like, is there an uncle, cousin? I know your dad was in the military, you said earlier.
Yeah.
Where does it come from?
I love that question because the person is my uncle, my mom's brother. Didn't graduate, he dropped out of high school.
Okay.
He dropped out of high school, started off, he was catching fish. He was a seaman, working on the boat and traveling on a ship all over the world. Then he worked for an airline, and he also was a football player and everything. But then he just learned from the streets but yet always remained very humble. Got married to his wife, who studied computer programming in Sunderland.
Okay.
And she married somebody who dropped out of high school. Next thing you know, now he is one of the biggest agents for some of the largest oil and gas companies in the world in Oman. And my uncle always took me along with him to all his business meetings since I was like 14, 15 years old, and taught me the art of negotiation and everything, and just listening. Actually, listening was more important. So he just said, just ask tons of questions. He's a very quiet man, and then he just makes these crazy decisions. Next thing you know, yeah. So his name is Isa Al Rawahi, and he's my inspiration.
Wow. And does he know that he's your inspiration?
Yeah, he does. I think I've done too many interviews and even wrote about him in my book and everything. So I think he knows quite clearly that he is.
Okay. So define to me, in your understanding, what is an entrepreneur?
For me, after all these experiences, when I tell you about some of the businesses that I did and everything, I think an entrepreneur, number one, is somebody that doesn't want to go to the office and sign in at like 9 o'clock and then leave out 5 p.m. I think that was number one. Number two, they definitely want not only to be independent, but they want to make it happen. They want to make things happen. That's what it is. Whether it could be in any sector, you'll notice that whenever an entrepreneur comes in, they can see clearly that there is a problem, or there's an opportunity, and they just want to fill that gap. So every time I speak to anyone, they always like, you know what? It's not that you just want to do this because they can earn the money, like they can make money out of it. Yes, that's definitely one. But they also see that this is an opportunity to just to be the bridge between supply and demand. So that's where that's what I think an entrepreneur is.
Okay, so tell me any part of your journey where you've used your entrepreneurial flair, okay, and failed.
Sure. So there was a significant boom in the real estate sector in Dubai in about 2004, 2005, etc. And one of the things that was very clear for anyone who was in Dubai at the time would see there was ads in every corner of Dubai, newspapers to whatever, and you would see like massive pages, you know?
Yeah, there were. I remember.
Everywhere.
There were loads of inserts.
Yeah. You'd see these hoardings on the street that would go for maybe like at least 50 meters or lot longer, maybe 100 meters or more, just on one project.
Yeah.
So when you start to do, to investigate and find out how much money was being paid to just put out an ad there, it was insane. So I wasn't able to get into the platform for the advertising platform, but what I was able to do is the branding, the advertising. So these clients would need business cards, would need the design, would need letterheads, all these things. So my partner and I, we decided to pick up an office on Sheikh Zayed Road and then start a design agency, a branding agency. We started that, but so what was happening is we were getting a lot of work and going out to clients, and everybody wanted to have something as small as a business card. And I knew how that worked because at that time I also had experience because I was working and studying at the same time. And I knew how much people were paying to get even a logo designed, just the logo, and how much money you could make from it. So all I needed was a graphic designer. So it was not really rocket science. I'm not a graphic designer. I just had to get graphic designer and then I would get the business. The only issue with that is cash flow because you had two options. Either they would pay you an upfront of only 10%, the total value, or sometimes nothing. And they'd say, okay, give me a proposal. And by the time you're done preparing a proposal, like the design and everything, it will take you at least a minimum 2 weeks, if not 3 sometimes. So you're already reaching the end of the cycle, the month, and then you need to pay your overheads. So I didn't have enough cash flow to. So if I refused that business, the problem was there were too many other larger agencies that would get paid. It's not even a month or 2 months. They'd get paid a year later, and it was fine for them. They would be, because of their global presence, they were able to sustain themselves. So you're competing with the likes of Leo Burnett and Horizon, FCB, all these large agencies, and I was just like a really, really small fish. And and I think, so poor planning is the reason why I, and the lack of cash flow is why I, and also when later on I came across the book like Blue Ocean Strategy, and you understand that you need to go after different types of clientele. I was just going after the big fish and I was getting them, but they were not paying. Had I gone to smaller businesses, maybe I would have been lucky because they don't pay the larger agencies the kind of fees that they would charge. But I was young and I was stupid, and that's what happened. So that was
there a valuable lesson from that?
Oh yeah. And the lesson was, again, it's Blue Ocean Strategy. So Blue Ocean Strategy, for some of the viewers who don't know what this is, and it was written by 2 professors from a very good business school called INSEAD.
In France?
Yes, in France. And so they say that if everyone's going after the same type of clients and in one area of the ocean, of the market, there are so many different types of fish in a huge ocean that you should go out and fetch that. Don't go after the same ones. You can go into, you know, and in the same market, but you can find the smaller type of fish or different types or whatever. You can find your own niche, basically. I should have gone after my own niche, and I would have probably been successful in that, because it was really easy to get. You know.
But saying that though, the cash flow is always a problem for a startup business.
It is.
And I don't think people realise that. They think about revenue more so than they think about cash flow. So it seems to be a hiccup that people have when they're building their businesses.
Yes. And assumption is the mother of all screw-ups. I assumed that clients would, at least pay up to 30. and that was kind of like the norm. But even if they didn't stick to their word and they went up to 60 or 90 days, what are you going to do? Sue them? You can't, right? You can try everything, but you know, you don't have enough backing or legal backing or something to go after them and say, listen, you didn't stick to this timeline, and now I'm in trouble. So you just have to take it.
So when you see that experience that you've had, you've made a mistake. You say you were stupid, so you got to learn from that.
Yeah.
Tell me a business venture that you've done since that's made you, that you've taken those lessons and you've gone, right, I'm not making that mistake again. I'm going to set a new business up, and that new business is not going to have those problems. Okay,
so then after that, I went off trying to start a boutique store selling women's dresses and wedding gowns, because the number of, it's very simple. You don't even actually need to do any math with it. People, especially the women, they buy dresses every single time. There's so many weddings, occasions and stuff, and they don't want to wear the same dress again.
Yeah.
And that was what my sister said to me.
I married one.
So when they told me this, and the prices of wedding dresses here, like a minimum decent one can go for as less as $10,000. And where, you look at the dresses in the US, they cost maybe a couple of $100. So, all I did was import those dresses, sell them here, etc., whatever. However, we opened the store in a very bad location, like really, really bad. And the area was not just ideal for it. And slowly, as in the beginning, I was appealing to this clientele because they're like, okay, they liked who I was, etc. They would come, but they would never return because they didn't like the location. And one of the problem, apart from this, was exclusivity. When I got those brands specifically, I didn't realize that there were some people who were buying it just to find out what brand they were, and then they managed to open in some of the larger shopping malls in Dubai. And I tried to get exclusivity, but the person refused to give me exclusivity because she was like, you don't have any experience, I can't risk that. So because we didn't get exclusivity, and then if somebody had a chance to buy the same dress, even a little bit cheaper than what I was selling them at, because I needed to cover more. Yeah, so I didn't get exclusivity. The same dresses or the same brands were at the shopping mall. So if somebody can go and get the full shopping mall experience rather than going down in the main street where I was next to like a restaurant and all the smell would come into the fitting room. Yeah.
So
lesson number 2.
Okay, so you made mistakes more than once.
Oh yeah. Then the third one.
You made another mistake.
Oh yeah, there was another one. So I had a company then called Connections Middle East, and with my experience in business development, etc., I realized that lots of businesses and business people that want to come to the UAE and do business in the region, or particularly in the UAE. So I set up Connections Middle East because I had a lot of contacts. I still have a lot of contacts, and people were always asking me if I would partner with them. But there were so many companies asking me the same question. So I said, you know what? Okay, I won't partner with you, but I'll open up this business and then I'll work with you this way. So I'm an extension of your business. I'll be your business development, but I'm a company, pay into the company rather than paying me and whatever. That did not do well because very simple. There was 2 things. First, the global financial crisis hit so hard, many of those companies went into liquidation. Second thing, most of so your biggest buyers in the UAE are the government departments, and the government departments were not paying. They all went bust, or something happened, the cash flow and everything. So for almost a year, 2 years, I mean, this is no secret. You could read the newspapers all over the world. Everybody was complaining. If the likes of the global companies were raising their concerns with international organizations, the press, about how they were not getting paid, imagine the ones I was dealing with. So it was even worse, because if anything, the government was trying to pay off those major companies for big projects, big mega projects, and then pay the rest of us. So yeah, it was really just really bad. I mean, you couldn't do anything.
3 failures over how long a period? Was that 3 or 4 years?
Every 2 years. Every
6 years?
6 years, yeah.
Did it stifle your desire? Did it make you feel that maybe it's not going to happen for you? Or did you just keep persevering with a bloody-minded attitude that you had? What was it like for you emotionally?
Okay, people definitely were telling me, you know what, this is not for you, okay? But I'm a firm believer that this is made for me. I know in my gut, I'm like, look, I've got too much knowledge in my head and too much skill that I just leave it to waste like this. I know that there's something out there that's definitely meant for me. And my uncle, Isa, which I mentioned earlier, he always told me, Omar, there is no such thing as failure, only trials. All these are trials. So he always repeats those words to me. So that kept me thinking, and after all these experiences and obviously I also mentioned earlier, I was married one time, that failed. So I was like, okay, when that failed, I was actually really at my lowest point, because I also lost my job. So I lost my job, I lost those businesses, I lost that, well actually I gained when leaving my ex-wife, so yeah, whatever. And then as I just sat down, 8 months, unemployed, nothing. I couldn't find a job, and I just sat down. I was just sitting in my mom's place, and the first 2 months I was really depressed, and I felt like I didn't deserve to be in this world. I don't know what was going on. But then after that, I gathered myself and I got myself involved in a lot of volunteering work. I started doing a lot more work in orphanages and different centers. And then that's when I started using my mind, and I wrote the book. I started writing. So I started writing all these thoughts that were in my head. So
when you were writing them as they were in your head, were you writing them with the purpose of writing a book, or were you just diarising stuff?
Just diarising stuff. Just yeah.
Sticking stuff in, just getting your thoughts down on paper.
Exactly, just getting my thoughts on paper. So I wrote, so the way I start writing, a lot of people ask me sometimes, how do you write or whatever. So what I did is, I just wrote bullet points on everything. So I wrote bullet points, like I wrote assumption, communication, networking, friendship, this, etc. So I just wrote bullet points. So it's like a table of content. And then I started developing content, or the literature under each of these points. And then I've always had it, and I never had the intention of publishing the book, until when I finally got a job and I met somebody. I met a work colleague, and she was a member of a book club, and she told me she likes reading books. I said, you know what, I wrote some material. It's not really a book, it's just thoughts, and I gave it to her. She's like, oh my God, Omar, you should publish this book. And I was like, nah, I'm not gonna do it. And I didn't do anything. I didn't even listen to her. I just gave it to her. But on my birthday, I think when I was 25 or 26, actually, 26, I think. She came back, and on my birthday, she actually had printed, designed the book and everything. So she's like self-published it, but it wasn't sold, it wasn't in the market, but she made like 5 copies and she gave it to me like that as a gift. It was just my birthday gift. I'm still, till today, I'm always going to...
That is an amazing gift, isn't it? For someone to take the time to do that.
Yeah. I was like, wow, it was designed, it was ready.
Gosh.
And then that was her message to me, as in, go out, find yourself a publisher and do it. And
awesome, just awesome. What a cool lady. Have faith and belief in you.
I know, right?
Wow. So that was genuinely is. I mean, I never heard anyone do something like that.
No
But
way.
you could have, after getting that book, there was no way in the world you couldn't then do that, is there? There was no option.
Yeah, exactly. I just had to do it, because when I saw it, I was like, oh my God, this looks like I could see this in the bookstores. So now as I walk into like the Virgin Megastore or Kinokuniya in Dubai Mall, and it feels really good.
That's magic.
Yeah.
Okay, so my audience will be thinking, some of them will be thinking that Emiratis,
Yeah.
okay, as well as probably a lot of people within the GCC, Emiratis have got access to people that maybe others living in this part of the world don't.
Yeah.
Also maybe access to money.
Yeah.
Okay, either family money or money
True.
from connections that other people don't. Do you think that Emiratis have an unfair advantage as entrepreneurs, or do you think that's just a facade?
We do have an advantage. We have a massive advantage, and especially the fact that if some people are familiar with this, with what we have, we have several entities that are supported by the government to support entrepreneurs. Like they literally, the government's come out to us and said, here's a pile of cash, come to us with a really good idea and take the money and do something with it. You know, and that kind of privilege, I don't think people in many parts of the world don't have. And to have that, I feel like we should be able to do a lot of things. However, I think the disadvantage we have, which, yes, we can talk about all these things, but remember what we're talking about are all the things on the surface. It's this, the disadvantages we have is the what's beneath. And what I'm talking about, it's that grit, it's the attitude, it's all those things on the inside, the things that make an entrepreneur. Because real entrepreneurs have gone through some major hurdles or hardships and all those and struggles. And yes, a lot of them get free education and everything. When you get that education and we have a cushion. The cushion is the disadvantage, in my opinion. So
it's almost like the spoiled child.
Yeah. So when you have that, that's what happens. There's so many of them that say, you know what, I don't need to. Because if you think about it, if you think of a startup and you want to, in the beginning, you know, it'll take you a couple of years until, let's say, you actually start earning about $10,000 a month or something. But if the average Emirati starting working at a public sector earns at between $7,000 to $10,000 a month, then they'll think to themselves, okay, I have an option of doing this, working a certain amount of hours, or do I do this and go through all that? Now, they could do that, but you know what they also need? They need encouragement from everybody around them to tell them to do that. From home, to their friends and their peers and everybody else. But that's the problem. They don't get that. They always are told to take the easier option. So that's the biggest.
Are they?
All the time. There's no one. And let me be honest. My mother hates the fact that I want to go into business. She prefer that I'm in a government position or something like that. But my uncle, her brother,
certainty and that safety is in her mind is more sensible.
Yes, and you know, I can understand her. She's a mother and everything, and a lot of moms would like to, you know, maybe see their children. I'm not saying all, but maybe many of them. And my uncle, who's a complete opposite of her, sometimes I feel you two are not even related. And he's telling me, no, I'm going to go make sure, okay, you're doing this now, it's fine, but make sure you plan that you have to have another income. And you got to do something on the side. And there's so much potential. There's so much potential for you to do so many things out there. It's like you have this, you have the personality. That's what he says. And then, you know, he's like, there's so much. He's like, you can speak well. You can talk to people. You're good with people. So why not? You know.
Tell me about what your perception of or the importance of salespeople and business developers are in entrepreneurial businesses.
It's one of like. You know what, especially in this part of the world, 80% comes down to communication, which is the major skill set required for a business developer or a salesman or woman here. And if you don't focus on that skill, on how you, and when I say communication, it's verbal, non-verbal, everything else, the cultural etiquette, all of those things. and the protocol. If you don't understand all those things, you're not going to go anywhere. So 80% of it depends on that, and the 20% is the actual business transaction, as we were speaking earlier about. And it's and it's known, because if in business, when you study, there's something known as low context cultures. We are in a high context culture. From the Eastern Hemisphere and whatnot, is we still hold on to so many things, as family relations, your favorite like Premier League team, it better be Chelsea. I'm assuming you're a Chelsea fan, but I'm not going to ask you. But anyways, you are, and etc. So if you're on the good side of all that, then yeah, it can take you a long way.
Okay, so if you were to go and want to learn those skills, here in the UAE, is there a university that teaches people how to sell?
I think Make It Happen University.
That's what I do.
Yes, exactly.
That's how my business came about, because in the United States, in the UK, then there's not anything here that teaches people. How does, when you think about entrepreneurs, I think about entrepreneurs, you could be working in network marketing. You're building a business within a business. If you work in real estate and you're a commission-only salesperson, you're building a business within a business, because your revenue comes from your efforts. So it always fascinates me to understand how many people put a lot of importance on that particular area. When you wrote your book, what did you focus on when you wrote your book? You said to me earlier about common sense and stuff that everybody already knows. When you've had the reviews of your book, what have people said about it? And you're about to write another one, so tell me a bit more about that.
So the first book is all about emotional and social intelligence. That's what it's all about. And and why it is key to focus on these two skills, it's because, again, answering your question before this, reputation. Reputation is everything. And especially in a country like this, and now with social media, the moment you do something wrong, it goes viral. I mean, before it was just the mainstream media, but now with social media, everything goes viral. And I think what's more viral than social media is the word of mouth. Again, in this part of the world, I'm sure even your cameraman will agree with me. So what I wanted to say is that once someone focuses, and these are the topics that I talk about in the book, the more you focus on your self-development and well-being and everything else, and people really enjoy your company, and they find that you're trustworthy and you've got credibility and integrity and all those things, you'll go a very long way. That's all you need. And to answer your question about where can you learn all this, what I say is, fine, you do have books, etc. But I think the best learning, best way of learning, which I also mentioned in my book, Just Read It, is observation. You learn by observation. And this is what my uncle was telling me all the time. This is why he took me to those business meetings when I was 14, 15, 16 years old, because he told me, he's like, Omar, don't say anything, just listen. And that's why in the book, I also say that we were created, you have two eyes, you have two nostrils, you have two ears, but you only have one mouth. Because you have to listen twice as much as you speak.
Of course.
So that's the reason why we have to think about these things. But a lot of us, we just move on with life, but we don't really focus on anatomy and all these different important things that we were built around.
When you think about the next 3 years of your life, your entrepreneurial career, what do you think that you're going to do and focus on that's really going to inspire you? And does it matter to you as much being an entrepreneur or teaching people how to be smart entrepreneurs?
That is a great question. So I think it's parallel. So I want to always continue. As I mentioned earlier, I'm always invited to different schools, universities to talk about entrepreneurship, teaching entrepreneurship, and I do a lot of mentorship as well, even through the Global Shapers community. I think this is, when someone asked me one time, I said, Omar, I love using this quote by Mark Twain, the 2 important days in your life, the day you were born and the day you find out why. I realized I know what's my purpose, and my purpose, you talked about, the different age brackets and what you find out, what you're going to do. And my purpose is I'm an educator. I realize I'm an educator, and I do that all the time, whether it's in business, I tend to educate people about either the market or the entity or the individual, etc. Or I'm able to simplify complex problems, and that's what I'm good at, I think. So I always want to be an educator, but I definitely want to work on building some sort of an empire which would be sustainable, which I really will would believe in and hope it will carry on with generations to come. But my second book is touching upon something about what I kind of want to do. So my first book was on social and emotional intelligence. The second one is on artificial intelligence, and everybody's talking about it now. You know, robotics and man versus machine, etc. So it's called What's Next. So I'm going to talk about disruptive technologies in the different sectors. I'm going to talk about the jobs of the future, and then also the skills required for those jobs. So this is what I'm writing about.
Yep.
And I'm saying that productivity is for machines and creativity is for humans, or jobs are for robots and life is for people.
Yeah.
And in this, I hope that I will come up with something that will, if I was going to do something in a new business, would be almost where I combine technology with human connection. Something like Uber, which is, you know, peer-to-peer. So I want to do a peer-to-peer project, which I really love, because as you said to yourself, you know, I love meeting people and I want to connect with people. So I really feel I could do a business or focus into something that will be man and machine, man complementing machine, or machines complementing man.
If people want to follow you, how would they follow you? Are you on Instagram?
Yeah, everything, social, you know, on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. You know, Omar Al Busaidy, not Arabian Prince, nothing fancy.
So Omar Al Busaidy is all it is across all of those?
Everything.
So guys, if you want to find out about what Omar's doing anywhere in the world, okay, you can follow him on social media. Just give everyone the title of the book again.
Just read it.
Just read it. That couldn't be simpler than that, could it, to be honest with you? And that's available in all good bookstores. And you've done an audiobook as well.
Yes. It's also an ebook. So you can download the book on
your Kindle
iBooks, on your Kindle, iBooks, whatever. So you can download the book, or
they can buy it on Amazon.
Or they can buy it on Amazon. You can order it on Amazon. And yeah, it's in all Virgin Mega stores. Yeah.
I'm going to get a copy of the book from Omar, have a read of it myself, and then I'll come back to you and tell you more about it. But this kind of stuff's really valuable. Get out there, get a copy of the book, read it, okay, find out what you can learn from a book like that. I'm sure that there's some bits in there that will help you develop your entrepreneurial flair, develop your sales skills, and just improve your performance overall. So don't underestimate how important something like this is, to take time to read, study, and use, okay? Omar, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you very much.
It's really good to meet you. I've really enjoyed talking to you.
Likewise.
You're just a real full of life, high energy character.
Thank you, sir.
And it's been great.
Thank you, Spencer.
Whatever you do today, make sure you do what this guy does and get out there and make it happen.